Now, since 1922, Leinster House has been home to the Oireachtas, where laws are made, governments formed, and secrets exchanged behind closed doors.
And in his new book, The Secret Life of Leinster House, Virgin Media News' political correspondent Gavan Reilly is lifting the lid on the inner workings of the Dáil. Good morning, Gavin.
Folks. Sorry I missed the all-staff email with the dress code.
Well,
I know, there you go.
We're really disappointed.
Yeah.
Disgusted with you.
No, I was out of office yesterday, alas. Yeah. So sorry to
You have
ruin
a
it.
book to promote.
I do. Here we
It's
are.
allowed. And there's a hint of red.
Yeah. Actually,
the
the other day, when I went out to the publishers to sign a few copies, and I was accidentally dressed the same as the book. And they were like, "You did that deliberately," and I genuinely didn't. I was just wearing my standard navy suit that I wear most days at work anyway.
The Secret Life of Leinster House. It sounds absolutely fascinating. I want it made into a movie stat, but in fairness, everyone's fascinated by what goes on once you go through the gates of the Dáil.
Which I think was part of the reason why I wanted to do it, because there's a lot of stuff that might feel like it's minutiae and it might feel like it's inside baseball and it doesn't really matter. But when you consider how important TD's decisions are and how influential they are on the rules the rest of us have to live by, actually those minutiae that control their lives are even more important, because if TDs themselves, for example, might find it difficult to land on their feet in Leinster House, to get up to speed with the inner workings of it, with all the chicanery. If they find themselves flailing from the first couple of months, then the chances are they might always be running to stand still, and they might turn out never to be a very effective TD. So the ones that end up landing on their feet and being able to hit the ground running are the ones that have the most impact. So part of what I'm examining in the book is that steep learning curve where people might elect you on the Friday, you get hoisted up on somebody's shoulders in the RDS or somewhere else on a Saturday. You arrive into Leinster House on Monday morning and people start calling you saying, right, can you fix this for me? Can you fix that for me? And a lot of the time they just don't know how. And trying to find that learning curve and in a certain way faking it till you make it is actually a really interesting part of the job.
In so many cases, and I know with former Taoiseach, it was the situation where a parent died, a sitting TD died, and they just happened to be the offspring. So they're put on the ticket and wind up by election or general election replacing a mum or dad.
And in some cases, like that is a natural thing, and they're almost being groomed from the very moment that they're able to walk and talk to one day take over mammy or daddy's, usually daddy's council seat or Dáil seat. There are some cases, though, where people have ended up being part of dynasties where they didn't actually really want to do it at all. I speak to Mark McSharry for the book, the youngest of 6 kids, the youngest child of Ray McSharry, former cabinet minister, former European commissioner. In a certain level, because he had seen the nitty-gritty and the sort of the slightly hairy stuff about the job, he had no real interest in actually doing it as a full-time job, went into business, became a meat exporter, became the chair of the local Chamber of Commerce, found himself almost in politics by accident because he was the head of the Chamber of Commerce at a time of a Shannon election, and they said, actually, the Chambers of Commerce need to put forward a candidate. Would you mind considering it? And he did. And people think that it's one of these heir to the manor things that you're almost built in a laboratory to take over your dad's job. In his instance, it was almost by accident. And there's a lot of cases where that happens, where people know really what it's like. They know the humdrum stuff, the unglamorous bits, and they know how draining it is. So they don't actually intend to make it their own lives. It just kind of falls upon them anyway.
And you can't just decide to run for the Dáil or the Shannon. I mean, there's a process that people have to go through that a lot of people just aren't aware of what it entails.
Yeah, so there's the conventions if you're running on a party, and sometimes they can be the dirtiest parts of the whole thing, because
they're foul,
people might think that they often think if you're running for election, and for example, if you're a Fianna Fáil candidate, they think that your biggest rival is the Fine Gael candidate or the Sinn Féin candidate or the Labour candidate. If you're on a ticket with another Fianna Fáil running mate, the chances are they are your competition, because there might not be enough Fianna Fáil votes for 2 people, so it's either kill or be killed. And they can be really, really vicious that way. One other part which I do examine in the book as well is the tally, because we all know, I think the last time I was sitting here, I think it was for the general elections.
Oh, I love the tallies.
And I adore the tallies. Like, it's my
Tally men are legends, aren't they?
I would do that every weekend if I could. I'd never go home. I'd just sit here talking about tallies to you every Sunday morning until Kingdom Come. But we think of tallies as being just an early steer of what way the election is going, what the final result is going to be. For politicians, the tally means so much more, because the tally is a more geographical breakdown of where it is. So, you know, my native constituency is Meath West. You could get elected to the Dáil with 4,000 or 5,000 votes in Meath West. But are those votes in Trim? Are they in Navan? Are they in Enfields? Are they in Longwood? Are they in Rathbone? Where are those votes? Unless you do a proper breakdown of the tallies, you don't know. But that in its own way then becomes inside knowledge for the parties, where they can squeeze out any newcomer, because that information is held by them. It's not something you can just easily Google and find out. So if you're a new independent and you might have all the buckets of enthusiasm, all the best will in the world to try and run, but you don't know which housing estate votes Sinn Féin, which housing estate votes Fine Gael, oftentimes you'll be knocking on doors looking for votes that you're never going to win. And little gladdens the heart of a politician than seeing an opponent knocking on a door looking for a vote that they're absolutely not going to get.
Yeah.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
It's vicious, though. The election cycles, the canvassing, the infighting. I mean, and your party colleagues trying to cut the legs from under you as well. Like, my eyes have been so opened over the last number of years when it comes to the kind of behind the scenes in elections. It's a dirty business.
And it's very draining as well. Not only the elections, but then when you get in and some of the tensions there are about the working hours, because the Dáil sits late 2 nights a week. Sometimes it sits late 3 nights a week. If you're from Dublin, that's a bit of a pain in the backside anyway. But if you're from a regional area and you have to commute up on a Tuesday morning and only get to hit the road on a Thursday afternoon or a Thursday night, that's very draining as well. You obviously sacrifice a lot in your private lives. But then, as we all know, we expect TDs to be all things to all people. So if you're not also showing up in community centres or doing clinics or attending some sort of sports match or training at a weekend, if you're not attending a public meeting on a Monday night or a Friday night, someone else will, and you'll suffer by comparison. So you're almost never on. And a lot of them do almost regret how professional it's had to become and how much they have to sacrifice about their personal lives in order to squeeze in this professional thing, which often isn't as fulfilling as they think it might be either.
Okay, and can also be very abusive from the public.
Yeah.
When you venture out, whether that's just a run to the shops or attending a funeral or one of these sports games. So why do people want to do it?
I actually don't come away, spoiler alert, I don't come away with a complete universal reason as to why people do it. Although they do all love, at a small level, the everyday wins that you get, just the little fixes. I'm Gavan Reilly and I'm going on holidays in 3 weeks' time and I've just discovered that my passport is about to expire. I need help. I ring up a local constituency TD. Whether they can actually help and get it rushed through or not is a bit of a dark secret as to whether they actually have that power. But if you're the local TD who is able to call up the hotline and say, listen, would you mind making sure that one is looked at quickly because Gavin can't lose his holiday, and you get it done, that's a little win. If Gavan Reilly's grandfather needs a hip replacement but he's waiting too long and you can call up someone to make a case that it should be more urgent and you get it done, that's a win. Those little things where they feel like they can make people's lives a small bit materially better are the reason that they do it. But one thing that they do often find when they get in, and this is especially the case if they have previously been on a county council or a city council, they are used to having the power of ringing up some official in the council and saying, hi, this playground is actually looking a bit banjaxed, could you give it a bit of lick of paint and fix the swing? And they get it done and it happens. And it's a small thing, but it makes people's lives materially better in that area. And then they come to Leinster House and they think that they've got the same clout at a national level. They think they can call up some assistant secretary in some department and say, this grant system is broken, can you fix that please? But those civil servants only answer to their own minister. So they get elected thinking that they're going to have this massive sway. And actually then they realise the only way you can really have sway is by becoming a minister. And then they spend their lives running again and again and again, going through a job that they often don't find very fulfilling, hoping that one day they become a minister. And if they do, great. But oftentimes they don't.
Small fish in a very, very big and vicious pond. And another place that can be a little bit of a vicious pond is the Dáil bar. People are fascinated. A lot of business and a lot of horse trading gets done in the Dáil bar.
Well, the Dáil bars, plural.
Bars, sorry.
This is
More than one.
This is one of the misunderstood
there's
things.
the private one.
Yes.
And there's the one that plebs like us can be invited
Yes,
into.
so there's the Strangers Bar, and I know people might at home be immediately thinking, God, like it's dreadful that, in this most influential place of all, that there's not alone one bar, but 2 bars. People get quite defensive, actually, about the Strangers Bar, the Visitors Bar that any other member of staff can bring in or you can bring a visitor to, because they often find that actually Leinster House is not built to receive people for meetings. If you have a constituency group coming up because they want to talk about the shortage of local school places, for example, your own Dáil office might not be equipped to be able to handle a very big group. So the one place you'll end up hosting them is in the bar, and the bar also doubles as a bit of a cafe. You can get a toasted sandwich or you get a cup of coffee. So it is a sociable place to bring them. The members' bar, which only TDs and senators themselves are allowed to go in, even someone who's working in Leinster House 12 years has never seen the inside of it. There's literally a wall behind the door. So even if the door is like flapping open as you pass it on the corridor, you still can't see inside. That is allegedly a little bit more like a local. It's got not just TVs with the Dáil and Shannon, but the horse racing or the soccer is on TV at the back.
Have you not even snuck a look in?
No, you literally can't. Like if you wanted to peek your head in around the saloon doors on the corridor, and by the way, it doesn't even say this is the members' bar. It just says private, pre-Vóideach over the door. But you look in, there's like an ante-room inside the door, so you'd have to go around a door to be able to see inside.
Wow.
And some TDs, even when you ask them, like, what's it like? What's the furniture like? Tell me about it. They're like, what bar? What are you talking about? Such is the level of secrecy around the whole thing. I was told that there is a weird hierarchy where it's a kind of an unwritten social code. A little bit. I'm actually conscious of using a Mean Girls reference, considering on Fridays you wear pink.
Well, Fridays,
it's not Wednesday.
Fridays.
It's not Wednesday.
But they have this sort of thing where, like, oh well, the Fianna Fáil kids, it's like, you know, the cool girls sit over there and the mathletes are there. The Fianna Fáil TDs sit in this corner. The Fine Gael TDs sat in that corner. The Labour guys used to sit there. And there was also a bit of almost like a class system where if a minister was at a table having their lunch or whatever, that you couldn't just invite yourself to sit down beside them. You would have to be almost invited to be in their presence. It was like a high school canteen where, like, the prefect is allowed to sit there and you can only be with them if they invite you into their presence. That, like, it's strangely hierarchical. And again, TDs get elected thinking that they're the creme de la creme. And they show up and they are very, very small fish in a very big pond.
Oh, my goodness.
There is the story of a TD who didn't know that there are tunnels that connect different parts of the house.
Yeah. So what we see on TV, the original Georgian bit of Leinster House, doesn't even have the Dáil chamber in it. Like that building is very, very small, and it's only a very small part of the whole complex. See it there? They literally where those chimneys end. That's the original Leinster House. But even the Dáil chamber is off at an extension to the right-hand side of the camera. And most TD's offices, in fact, every TD's office, is in an adjoining multi-storey at one end or another. But because no one ever hands you a manual when you walk in, and no one ever says, oh, here's the quickest corridor from A to B, you could be in one building where the committee rooms are, and you need to get to another building at the opposite end where the Dáil chamber is. And I've met TDs on underground corridors who are like, did you know this tunnel existed? I'm like, well, it's not so much a tunnel as a corridor that happens to run underground. But they're saying, I've worked here for years, and I didn't know that I could walk from the committee room back to the Dáil chamber.
Be nice to the ushers. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, well, the ushers might eventually go, listen, Deputy, you don't have to go outside and have your hair blown all over the place. There's an underground corridor there. But people don't know these things. And the female TD that I met was like, I've been walking outside in wind and hail and snow for 3 years, walking into the Dáil chamber with my hair all over the place, because no one ever told me that there was this underground corridor that I could use to stay all nice and snug and to go in with my freshly straightened hair still intact.
And we've had lots of journalists going into the hallowed chambers of the Dáil over the years. I know Mairead McGuinness now is tipped to be running for president, and now she's over in Europe. Would you ever be tempted to, like...
I've been approached a couple of times about going to the
dark side.
The calm side. Yeah. It is the dark side. I don't begrudge people who do it, because when you consider the conditions that you have in media versus how precarious the work might be on the other side, but given the pay that now comes with it, I don't begrudge people for doing it. I have been approached a couple of times and I've said, it's not for me. I can't ever imagine myself doing it, because one thing that I find very compelling and very enjoyable about the job that I do, and I'm lucky enough to do for here, is the variety that comes into it every day. You know, this week we had Cara Darmody doing her protest outside. Last week, and maybe again today, we're going to have the issue about the hip surgeries. It might be environmentalism. 10 years ago this week, it was marriage equality. Anything you ever want to get changed in society, really, at some stage has to come through Leinster House. So although people might think of it as just fellas in suits talking to each other, and it is mostly fellas and it is mostly suits, they are talking about everything. And they're talking about stuff that doesn't materially affect people's lives. So I really enjoy the coverage of that. And for now, touch wood, who knows? But for now, I can't ever see myself really wanting to.
Okay, and he wouldn't be able to handle the pay cut.
Yeah.
Because this place pays so good.
So Gavan will not be a future Taoiseach for the moment anyway. Gavan,
or president.
Or president. You never know.
Well, that does pay much better.
That's a different ballgame. Listen, Gavan, thank you so much for joining us today.
With the book.
Look at you matching your suits, matching your cover as well. Lovely. The Secret Life of Leinster House by Gavan Reilly.
In bookshops now, and also we're doing a signed event in Cork this Tuesday night, a live Q&A with Sarah King.
Of course.
Easons.com for tickets.
Good bookshops and bad ones too.
Yeah.
Wherever.
I won't name those ones.
Good to see you, Gavan.
Thanks, folks.